Hey everybody, what's going on? So today we're out here at the pond and I'm throwing two different worms. I'm throwing this one right here, which I'll show you guys it. I've actually got it on my bait caster with a 1/4 ounce shaky head. This here is that shorter little flat-sided worm. I've actually came up with a name for this worm. I'm going to call it the dragon worm because it works great for dragging it along the bottom. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it in the water or not. But on that 1/4 ounce shaky head, it looks awesome. I had a few small bites with this last night. I wasn't able to hook any. So we're going to see if I can hook up with a fish here with this worm. And my other setup, I have my Mike Iconelli Never Give Up rod setup. Oh look, there's a baby rabbit. Where'd he go? There he is. A little baby rabbit. I get distracted very easily if you guys didn't know that. He was right beside me too. I'm surprised he didn't run off when I was walking over here. Huh, that's cool. This 1/4 ounce head is a little bit heavier than like the normal shaky heads that a lot of people would throw. So that's why I'm throwing it on a bait caster. My other setup there has a 3/8 ounce. Oop, cast a little bit too close to the bank there. See if we can get a fish here. Something just moved right here. Don't know if it was a bass, but I guess we'll figure it out. I actually have had a lot of bluegill hits on this little worm. Most of my bites that I was getting yesterday were right out here, sort of in a little bit deeper water. So we'll see if I can get one to bite out here. I was getting a lot more bites with that bigger, the slammer worm out in this deeper water, out in like the 7 to 10 foot range. Wouldn't be surprising if we get some bites on this worm. There's a frog over there making noise. But it really would not surprise me too much if we get a few hits on this. There's one. As I was just saying, it wouldn't surprise me if we got a few hits. And there is a fish, and he actually ripped up my worm. That was my only dragon worm that I brought too. So, little booger decided to rip up the worm, but it was a fun little fight. We'll actually see. This is a little bit too short to Ned rig, I think. We'll see. You know what? Why not? We'll see if that right there catches a fish. Who knows? Maybe it will. That'd actually be pretty cool. Oh, whoa! There's a deer! There's a deer! There was a deer just standing there. Holy crap! That is so cool. So much wildlife out here today. What in the world? I hope the camera caught that deer. I didn't even see it. I don't know if it was standing right there on the bank or what. Wow. Oh, there's a hit. I just actually had one hit. Might have been a bluegill though. As small as this little worm is, I would not at all be surprised if a bluegill came up and tried to hit this. Dang on, all the species are out today. The bass, bluegill maybe as well. I think that was a bluegill that just hit there. Little baby rabbit, deer, everything. Dang. I was just... Oh no. Oh, come on. I'm hung. Don't break. This is a 12-pound line, so it shouldn't break. Yep, I just pulled this branch right on up. It's actually probably the best thing for this little thing, because I've been snagged on this thing so many times, it's almost stupid. Alright, well, I think it might actually be time to go to the slammer worm. Well, I hooked this thing good. There we go. That right there. Get that out of the pond. Maybe it's time to go to the slammer worm. This is a crazy day already. Caught a fish. Seen a deer. Seen a baby rabbit. Alrighty, here's the slammer worm. This is the same worm that I caught that fish last night on. What I was doing, in case you guys are wondering what I was doing there, when I caught that fish was I was actually bringing it up over the ledge right here. There's a fish. Ah, he came off. He was swimming with it too. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting bit like crazy here. That was a bass, I believe, so we're going to cast right back there in that same exact spot and see if we can get him to bite again. He was swimming with it. He was swimming out, which lets me know that they're going to be sitting more on that side. Oop. My line twitched. But anyway, make sure when you're fishing, there's a little tip of the day right there, is to always pay attention where your line swims off to. If you're... Oop, there's a hit. Ah, he came off! Well, okay then. This worm is a little bit big for these fish. I think if I was using the Dox Lures Finesse worm, I'd probably get a few more bites, but oh well, we're getting bites right now, so that's all that matters. But anyway, pay attention to your line, where your line's moving when the fish are swimming off with your bait, because that can indicate where they are sitting on the ledge. If you're fishing out deep, if you're fishing out in 30-foot deep water, and you got a ledge that's going from 15 then down to 30, really steep ledge, and that fish, say you're standing like, hang on a minute, let me go right over here. Like right here is the, let me reel this up so I can show you guys a little bit easier. But right here, there's a ledge that goes from about 3 foot to about 5 and 7 feet. It kind of goes off kind of rapidly down from 3 to 7 feet. So if you're sitting right here and your line starts swimming back this way, that means them fish are on the top of the ledge. But if if your line starts going out this way, that means that your fish are on the lower side of the ledge, which means you ought to target the lower side of the ledge, obviously. And that can also be the same way with crankbaits, even. If you're throwing a crankbait right on the ledge, and when you hook a fish, if the fish is hooked on one side, which, I mean, this is not like a proven fact, this is just something I've noticed over time with not lipless crankbaits, but with square bill crankbaits and other baits. If your fish look like they hit this side of the crankbait, I mean, whichever way you're fishing, then most likely he's on the upper side, or vice versa, you know what I mean? But that's not a scientific fact at all. Sometimes the fish come up and just swim behind it, and then come up and just cream it. And, that can tell you sometimes different ways of where the fish are. But that's only sometimes, you know, I mean, it's not a proven fact, so don't go and, you know, go throw a crankbait and then only throw a crankbait on that side of the ledge. You know, don't do that, because most likely, sometimes it'll be wrong. Not all the time, but sometimes it'll be wrong, and the fish maybe missed it the first time, and you didn't even know he hit it, or didn't even know he tried to hit it. Then he came back on the other side and got it. So don't take that advice to heart, mainly because, I mean, stuff happens. You know, fish can get hooked different ways, whatever. But with a shaky head or Texas rig, there was a hit, I think. But with something on the bottom like this here, with a jig, shaky head, Texas rig, if your bait's sitting right on the ledge and your worm starts swimming out this way, out to the deeper water, target that deeper water a little bit more. Or if it's sitting right on that shelf, ledge, whatever you want to call it, and it starts swimming off to the shallower water, target that shallower water a little bit more, because that will be most likely where the fish are. So right now we're going to target the little bit deeper water. We're going to walk over here on this side of the ledge and target the little bit deeper water and see if maybe one of the fish are out in the deeper water. I can still hear that deer back there running around. I think that's that deer anyway. Sounds awful loud to be anything other than a deer. There's a hit. He didn't grab it though, or he didn't take it. Something else that I like to do with shaky heads is just flip them out down along the bank, sort of like this here. This bank here, it kind of goes from 0 down all the way down to 10 feet, you know. It's kind of just a keep on slanting down bank. So, I mean, it mainly is to target, like, just random fish that aren't really on anything specific. You know, this type of fishing here along the bank is better in ponds with a lot of bass over ponds with just a few, which this one here's got somewhere around 10 to 15 fish, which is why I've been getting so many bites. But it kind of depends sometimes. You know, if you got a small pond where there's like 10 to 20 bass in it, and it's like maybe half of, I mean, if it's like this size and there's like 10 to 20 bass, it can work. But I mean, if it's like a big pond like this with only 5 fish, it probably wouldn't work. But if it's a pond like this that has like 30 fish, it'll probably work a little bit better. Just mainly off of the fact that there's so many that they can't all be sitting in the exact same spot, you know what I mean? So some of them will be sitting on the ledge, some of them will be sitting beside laydowns, some of them will be sitting just on random, just nothing. And a lot of people think that shaky heads are more for, you know, trick worms and finesse worms and stuff, and they're not really made for these big worms like this 8-inch slammer worm or a man's jelly worm or something big like that. But you'd be surprised of how many people actually go and throw these big 10.5 to 12-inch worms on just little shaky heads. You know, this here's a 3/8 ounce shaky head with an 8-inch worm. Some people would think that's crazy. I personally, I mean, it's normal for me. I fished these big worms on little lighter jig heads like this before, and I've caught fish, and you guys have seen me catch fish before on these, or I've showed you the fish that I've caught on this. You know, some people would think that, you know, it's a little bit big of a worm for such a light jig head, and what I think is that it helps the jig head stay on the bottom if you have a heavier worm like this, and that's why I like to throw these bigger, heavier worms on these lighter jig heads, because it helps it stay on the bottom. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.